This was not a traditional murder, so we had to use non-traditional investigative techniques.
Peggy Carr was working at a restaurant in Alturas, Florida when she began to feel sick.
She was laying in bed and she couldn't move. She said she couldn't open her eyes. She was nauseated.
She was taken to a hospital where the ER doctors couldn't seem to find a cause for her pain. While examining her, a doctor noticed something troubling. Her hair was falling out. This made him suspect that Peggy had been poisoned. When test results came back, they showed Peggy had 20,000 times the natural amount of thallium in her system. Thallium is an extremely toxic chemical. Ingesting as little as 1 gram can kill an adult. But now her sons, Dwayne and Travis, had also started to complain about tingling fingers, upset stomachs, and burning sensation throughout their bodies.
Where it was like somebody taking 1,000 needles, putting your feet in them and just pressing all at once.
Dwayne and Travis's tests also came back positive, though they weren't as bad as Peggy's. The rest of the family also tested positive for trace amounts of the chemical. Dwayne and Travis recovered, but it was too late to save Peggy, and she died in the hospital. Police began an investigation to determine the origin of the poisoning. While searching the Carr household, investigators found the source of it. Thallium residue was discovered in several empty Coca-Cola bottles. This made them recall an interview they conducted with the neighbor, George Trepal. When he was asked why he thought someone might want to poison the Carrs, he replied, "Someone must have wanted them to move out the neighborhood." A few months before the poisoning, the Carrs received a threatening note telling them to move out of Florida. The note was unsigned, but the family told police they had their suspicions. They believed it came from Trepal and his wife, with whom they did not get along. But this was much worse than an ordinary neighbor conflict. Throughout the years the two families lived next to each other, they were involved in multiple altercations.
He comes around the fence and, I want to speak to your mother, I want to speak to your mother. And they had words, they weren't kind words.
The Carrs claimed that one time Trepal even threatened to kill one of their children. George Trepal was described as the quiet, nerdy type. He had a degree in psychology and worked as a computer programmer. He was also a member of Mensa, an exclusive geniuses club that only accept members with the highest IQ in the world. He didn't seem like the type to commit such a terrible crime. But after some digging, investigators discovered that in 1975 he was arrested and charged as the lead chemist and mastermind behind a large drug operation.
George was involved in a methamphetamine ring in the 70s, and we found out that he was ultimately arrested for that.
He served jail time for this incident. After his release, he married Diana, another Mensa member. The two had a hobby of organizing Mensa Murder Weekends. These were social gatherings open to Mensa members only, where a murder mystery played out and they would attempt to solve it. One such event was planned the month after Peggy's death, and the murder involved being poisoned by neighbors.
When he talked about putting poison on a neighbor's doorstep, it really gave me chills.
When you have a good feeling that a person is responsible for a crime, you can't take that to court. More information was needed to pinpoint this as the right person.
In order to further the investigation, Special Agent Susan Gorek went undercover as Sherry Gwynn, a Mensa member. Sherry attended the murder weekend and befriended the couple, keeping in touch with them even after the event ended. She kept up the act for 2 years.
I hope I'm not a crime suspect. That could be messy. Yeah, I would imagine.
When Trepal and his wife decided to move houses, Gorek asked to rent their old home in Altura. As soon as she had the keys, detectives swarmed the house. They found chemistry equipment and books about poisons. In the garage, they found empty bottles, a bottle capping machine, and white powder which was identified as thallium, the same kind used to poison Peggy Carr.
They had a poisoning guide. It told how to poison someone with thallium and what would happen to the body.
It was all the evidence they needed. In 1991, Trepal was found guilty by the court and sentenced to death. Diana divorced him in 1996. He is now on Florida's death row, awaiting appeal.